Imagine a colossus striding across the known world, its shadow stretching from the sun-baked deserts to the icy frontiers. Its cities gleam, its armies are invincible, its laws define an era. This is the empire at its zenith, an embodiment of human aspiration, a monument to power. Yet, within its very foundations, an unseen enemy is quietly at work. It is not the barbarian horde at the gates, nor the rival emperor on a distant throne. It is the insidious, almost imperceptible erosion of value, the slow strangulation of prosperity, the creeping paralysis of debt. The most formidable powers in history, those whose names still echo through the ages, have often met their end not through a decisive military defeat, but through a silent, agonizing collapse of their economic heart. The paradox is stark, immense strength brought to its knees by the invisible hand of fiscal ruin, proving that even the grandest ambitions are tethered to the cold, unforgiving ledger. /n/n For nearly 5 centuries, the Roman Empire was a civilization of unprecedented reach and resilience. From a small city-state, it expanded through relentless conquest, fueled by a sophisticated military machine and an equally powerful administrative apparatus. New territories brought not only strategic advantage, but vast material wealth. Gold, silver, grain, and millions of enslaved people who powered its mines, farms, and workshops. This steady influx of resources funded the state, paid its legions, and built the marvels of Roman engineering that still stand today. The Pax Romana, an era of relative peace and stability across the Mediterranean, facilitated a vibrant network of trade, connecting distant provinces and enriching the imperial core. Merchants traversed well-maintained roads and secure seas, exchanging goods from Britannia to Egypt, creating an economic engine that seemed unstoppable. However, this very success harbored inherent vulnerabilities. The empire's vastness became its greatest burden. Maintaining a standing army of hundreds of thousands, administering a bureaucracy stretching across 3 continents, and defending ever-expanding frontiers demanded astronomical sums. As the easy conquests ended and the flow of plunder diminished, Rome had to find new ways to finance its colossal enterprise. The balance of power was shifting from expansion to maintenance, from acquisition to cost. /n/n The strains became acutely evident in the 3rd century CE, a period often called the crisis of the 3rd century. Decades of internal strife, civil wars, and relentless external pressures from Germanic tribes and Sassanid Persians drained the imperial coffers at an alarming rate. With traditional sources of revenue drying up and the costs of defense escalating, successive emperors resorted to a desperate, ultimately self-destructive measure: the systematic debasement of the currency. The silver denarius, once a widely trusted coin, saw its precious metal content steadily reduced. Initially a slight decrease, then a more significant one, until by the end of the century, the coins were barely silver at all, mostly copper with a thin wash of the precious metal. This act, akin to printing money without any backing, triggered hyperinflation of unprecedented scale. Prices for basic goods skyrocketed, often doubling or tripling within months. The value of wages plummeted, impoverishing soldiers, artisans, and farmers alike. Economic life became chaotic. Bartering replaced monetary exchange in many regions, fragmenting the once unified Roman market. Trade, once the lifeblood of the empire, seized up as merchants demanded payment in goods or stable local currencies, undermining the central authorities' control. The state's attempts to fix prices through edicts, like Diocletian's edict on maximum prices, proved largely ineffective, often leading to black markets and further economic disruption. Farms were abandoned as owners and tenants could not make a profit, leading to food shortages. Taxation became an impossible burden, as the currency collected was often worthless by the time it reached the imperial treasury. The empire, once a beacon of order, was spiraling into fiscal anarchy, its internal cohesion eroding long before any barbarian delivered a final blow. These economic convulsions left the vast Roman structure hollowed out, making it increasingly vulnerable to the very external threats it had once easily repelled. /n/n The Roman experience is a powerful illustration of fundamental economic forces that undermine imperial power. Firstly, fiscal overstretch is a recurring theme. The cost of maintaining global military presence, extensive infrastructure, and growing bureaucratic apparatus often outstrips a nation's productive capacity. Governments faced with this dilemma frequently choose short-term fixes over sustainable solutions. This leads directly to the second mechanism, currency debasement and inflation. When state revenue cannot match expenditure, the temptation to devalue currency or print unbacked money becomes irresistible. The initial relief is swiftly followed by rampant inflation, destroying public trust in the currency and disrupting all economic activity. Savings are wiped out, investment falters, and the very foundation of economic planning crumbles. Thirdly, trade imbalances play a corrosive role. Empires that consistently import more than they export drain their national wealth, leading to current account deficits that must be financed by borrowing or the sale of assets. Over time, this erodes a nation's economic sovereignty and leaves it beholden to external creditors. Fourthly, social and economic inequality can be a powerful destabilizer. When wealth becomes concentrated in the hands of a few, while the majority struggle, social cohesion weakens. This disparity can lead to political unrest, reduced domestic consumption, and a less productive workforce, further straining public resources. Fifth, a lack of innovation and economic stagnation can be fatal. Empires that become complacent, relying on past glories or inefficient economic models, fail to adapt to changing global landscapes. Rome's reliance on slave labor, for instance, hindered the development of labor-saving technologies, while its vast bureaucratic structure often stifled entrepreneurial spirit. Finally, pervasive corruption acts as a parasitic drain. The diversion of public funds for private gain siphons resources away from essential services, infrastructure, and defense, weakening the state from within and alienating the populace. These interconnected mechanisms create a feedback loop, each amplifying the others, until the once mighty edifice buckles under its own economic weight. \n while no single entity today mirrors the Roman Empire in form, the fundamental economic challenges that contributed to its decline resonate with profound relevance in the 21st century. Modern nation-states, even those at the pinnacle of global influence, confront similar dilemmas of fiscal sustainability. The immense costs of maintaining sophisticated militaries, expansive social welfare programs, and aging infrastructure create persistent budget deficits and burgeoning national debts across the developed world. Debates rage over the sustainability of pension systems, healthcare expenditures, and the funding of cutting-edge technologies. The specter of inflation, once thought vanquished, has returned in various forms, prompting central banks worldwide to navigate delicate policy choices, balancing economic growth with price stability. Global trade imbalances persist, with some nations accumulating vast surpluses while others incur chronic deficits, leading to geopolitical tensions and anxieties about economic leverage. The rising tide of wealth inequality within many nations, exacerbated by globalization and technological shifts, sparks social division and political polarization, reminiscent of the fractured societies of antiquity. Moreover, the imperative for constant innovation, the ability to adapt to rapid technological change, and the need to transition to more sustainable economic models are critical for long-term prosperity. Nations that fail to invest in research, education, and modern infrastructure risk falling behind, their economic engines sputtering. Corruption, though often hidden, continues to undermine public trust and divert resources, stifling economic development in many parts of the world. These are not mere historical curiosities, they are living challenges, demonstrating that the principles of sound economic management remain as crucial now as they were 2 millennia ago. \n the grand narrative of empire often focuses on charismatic leaders, epic battles, and monumental achievements. But beneath the surface, a more nuanced and often overlooked story unfolds, the relentless struggle against economic entropy. Empires, despite their perceived invincibility, are ultimately complex systems, intricately balanced. When that balance is disturbed by unsustainable spending, currency devaluation, trade imbalances, or pervasive inequality, the entire structure begins to fray. The fall, then, is not merely a political or military event, but an economic inevitability, the culmination of countless small decisions and overlooked warning signs. History's message is clear and enduring. True power is not solely derived from military might or territorial conquest, but from the robust health, resilience, and equitable distribution of a nation's economic vitality. The ruins of